Classic CTM. What's going on, everyone? I hope you're well and doing great. In this video today, we're going to be taking a look at our 2026 top stock picks. We're going to go ahead and do a review of the list we put together and see how they've performed to date. We're then going to go ahead and look at the top performers that we selected for the first quarter of 2026 and see how they performed. We're going to look at also the addition. It's not a top performer. It was one of my favorites that I added, BLOX, and we're going to talk about its performance in relation to Bitcoin as well as the markets. And then what we're going to do is see if we could look at some CTM precision on top of those top picks and see how we could go ahead and we could further compound those gains going forward. So this is a work session. This is an exercise. It's a review of where we are and what we put together so we could go ahead and make sure we continue to compound our knowledge and our gains and conquer the markets. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and this is CTM. Today, Trump and Z, Air Force One arriving with a who's who list of American tech and finance. And it seems that the NASDAQ here continues to defy gravity, almost up 1% on the session, erasing so far yesterday's sell-off. We see that Bitcoin is still lagging right now. As we know, this stage of the Fed playbook, we expect that the tech leads. Tech actually melted up last time in late 2019. It's melting up again. Bitcoin's going to find its stride and then do Bitcoin things in Bitcoin times. I'm going to bring up this question today as we see that we're looking at the Fed chair nomination. The Fed chair nomination of Kevin Warsh. And the question is, hey, Jordan, so what's the deal? Kevin Warsh is a fan of balance sheet reduction. And what does that mean specifically for Bitcoin? It's a great question. Let's go ahead and just dial in over here. And listen, I remember Treasury Secretary Bessent was not a fan at all of Janet Yellen's playbook of short-term issuance. He was a very strong, prior to getting the nomination, critic of it. And since he's been the U.S. Treasury Secretary, the pace of new short-term new issuances has increased exponentially to service the debt. There's no other way about it. There's no choice. Are we in for a similar situation with Fed chair nomination Kevin Warsh? And, listen, I'm not, and he's been for a long time, since 2008, not a fan of balance sheet expansion. And is he going to, he's saying that he's coming out, he's saying he wants to reduce the balance sheet. Is he going to be able to reduce the balance sheet is another question. Is it going to be more of a Bessent situation where he doesn't like it, but he's got no choice? And don't forget, right now, the Fed is beginning to raise their balance sheet. They're beginning to ease into this melt up. It's probably going to be the greatest bubble of our lifetime. And for sure, it's probably going to end badly. The question is this wave really just beginning its massive ascent into the bubble, or is it about to crash now? Timing is everything. And that's why we show up every day to make sure that we put the work in. If we were to see, with a new Fed chair, monetary policy change, and we were to see them begin to tighten monetary policy, to begin running QT again. Look, we know they had to stop QT because all the ample reserves were gone. We talked about the reason Bitcoin lags here is because it takes several weeks, this time a little bit more, for that liquidity to push out into the system. It's not outright QE. Are they going to be able to reduce that balance sheet and start QT? Not without breaking things. I don't think. Maybe they have some type of master plan, and maybe it's dependent on the Genius Act and then the Clarity Act, and we're going to find out. And if so, even if they're, that would mean that's a whole, we have to do research. I don't know. Right now, I'm going to say, listen, It's not what they say. Watch what they do. Right now, we know that he's a fan of balance sheet. He's not a fan of balance sheet expansion, but I don't think he's going to have any choice. If he starts reducing the balance sheet, running QT, that's going to bring in a bear. We're going to have to go ahead and do our best to go ahead and navigate if that's happening. But right now, that's not happening. Right now, the balance sheet is moving up. Right now, we're looking at monetary base total moving up. And we are seeing what is going to be an epic at the Roaring 20s full effect. Guys, let's go ahead and just take a look at what's going on here and put everything together. Thanks for being here, everyone, and making sure you go ahead and hit the likes, thumbs up, get us going over here. If you're new here, welcome. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and this is CTM, Conquering the Markets. All right, let's take a look. Let's get our bearings. First of all, we're looking at STRC starting to stack finally. How soon does strategy plan on moving the dividends to bi-monthly? Is that going to go ahead and have an effect on the accumulation? We're watching, we're finding out. Some breakdowns in play. We got to take a look at this over here. And the gold cross, you could see over here that Bitcoin and gold, you could see that we are on the verge of a sell impulse. If that happens, that's going to put pressure likely on the pair. We have other things to look at as well. By the way, right into the top end of our channel, first instance. Interesting. Good look over there. Let's move over. Let's take a look at what's going on. And we see that, okay, Bitcoin having trouble with the extension of the breakout, but structurally here still looks pretty good. Do we put in a sell impulse? Is it something that we should check out over here? Let me just go ahead and check. And my eyes are only focused on these two wicks. That's where my eyes are, and I'm just extending it out without looking to the upside. And you can see we have a sell impulse right now underway today. That is, or suggests to me there's a good chance that we could go lower. Now, is there a possibility? Is there the potential that Trump and Z walk away with some type of really beneficial agreement, and we see this momentum continue up, and will the rising tides, in this case tech, melt up? Will that take Bitcoin with it? Very well could. Today, let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with yields. Seeing Bitcoin is getting pressure today. By the way, this is another important view. This is a 3-day. This is my lab work. This is angle work, static angle work. We did this back in like 2023, I believe. Could have been 2024. This is, anyway, you can see that we're getting close to a potential breakdown right here today. It looks like it is on the verge of triggering. If that does, that suggests downside action. And then you go ahead and just trick this up over here. This will be the new breakout once that happens. And we have to go ahead and pierce that. I mean, that in itself, we'll get to that one day. It's not today. Let's jump over there and move back and take a look at, I wanted to take a look at not this. I wanted to take a look at what's going on with yields today, and just jump in, and there we go, and pull it up. And I'm looking over here. First of all, yeah, I mean, is that what's putting pressure here? The Cabby is a great question. Cabby's running back to Bitcoin and asking, when the Fed started rising their balance sheet, what happened to Bitcoin? And I mean, literally, it took several weeks, like a little less than 2 months, for Bitcoin to find its footing. Bitcoin made a major lower low, as it did this time, and then Bitcoin swept the low. It hasn't swept the low this time, and I don't know that it will. But it took several weeks. This time we have a different situation happening. We have, obviously, which is why we're looking at yields, and yields here highly correlated to what's happening here with the price of oil. Oil trading at $101 a barrel. Pretty close to breaking out here on the monthly of that trend line breakout, which, if it does, could set up a rather big move. If that's happening, there's a good chance that we see the 10-year break out. And then if that breaks out, that's going to be bad news bears. You have to watch the 10-year and what happens over here. Is there the possibility, is the hopium right now that actually, look, this whole situation with the held up supply of oil going through the strait is really detrimental to the Chinese. And yes, they have a bunch of reserves, but they're dwindling. They're not happy about it. And is that, are we going to see, we did see yesterday China make a comment that they believe that no one should be collecting tolls for passage of crude going through the strait. This is one of the rare occurrences where we have the U.S. and China like in agreement and against an ally of China, the Iranians. So that was interesting. The other thing that was interesting is that today a Chinese ship passed through the strait. That was obviously a token of goodwill. President Trump on his way to meet Xi, he wants to go ahead and he wants to show up with a couple of presents, and he let a super tanker pass, a Chinese super tanker pass through the strait, through the blockade. So is it possible we see, because of this summit, some type of, I'm sure it's on their list. I'm sure it's on their agenda. They got a lot to speak about. We'll find out. We'll see what happens in the days past as the days come. Great to see you. Great to be here. Replay crew, big shout out to everyone out there on the replay crew. Again, you'd all know what we're watching because we show up every day. We put the work in. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on over here. If you remember, starting in 2026, our first week together for 2026, I put together this list of what I thought were going to be outperformers in 2026. We're into May. Let's check in and see what's going on, and then let's see how we could further improve. So, I mean, this is just the way that it was ordered, not in order of preference. Actually, anyway, that's not necessarily true. But I'm going to start over here on 2026, and I'm just looking up. We're doing a brief view like this because I got a better view to show you that's going to help you. You can see 150%. Woo! Irene cooking, Rocket Labs cooking. About break even, right? Space Mobile, AST Space Mobile. EOS is cooking today, up 9%, but it is down on the year. NVIDIA, cooking. Altogether, let's go ahead and take a look and just make this a little bit easier. If you look over here at performance and you go year to date and you take an average of all of these, the average is 24.5%, which is okay, which is pretty good. But how can we do better? That's what I'm bringing to the table. That's what we're going to look at right now. Let's go ahead and first do two other things. If you look at the first quarter performers, let's see how they did. So we could just go ahead and go to that same table, make it easier on ourselves. And I'm looking for year to date. I got to go to performance, year to date performance. I mean, this is a lot better. So listen, this is what I'm going to say. First of all, our list that we put together, face value, pretty good, up 24%. But when you look at the NASDAQ, what's the NASDAQ up? NASDAQ must be up. I'm gonna guess that the NASDAQ is up today, year to date, probably 15%. Right? I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna check it. Come on, guy. Yeah, it's not letting me do it. So I'll just do it like this. You ready? I'm gonna go from the beginning of the year. There you go. That's the 20th, Jordan. That's really not the beginning of the year. Here we go. 15%. So 24% outperforming. Is that really what we're looking for? I don't know. Not really. That's not good enough. If you look at and you were to go ahead, I look, I'm not good at that math. I have 180, 250, 270. Right? 270 divided by 5, 50% plus, 52%, 53%, whatever. Better. And all I'm saying is, well, that's not really a sample size. That was one quarter. I should have done that for the second quarter. I didn't put together a new list for the second quarter. That's a missing data point I wish we had. Going forward, I should get, you know what? Today. You gotta get going today so that tomorrow, that's in this world we live in, what's the important thing over here of data. If you remember the low cap performers, and I was taking a look at from 2023 till today, and I was saying what were some of the standouts. How could I find universal CTM settings that could go ahead? And by the way, looking at some 25% on NVIDIA, open position 25% on strategy, 15% on Tesla, Bitcoin spot ETFs at break even, FNGU up 22%, and the newcomer TQQQ is basically at break even. Ethereum holding this short trade over here. The enter short pending throws a lot of people off when the trailing stop kicks in. Guys, if you don't get the alert, you know the trade's still open. You could go ahead and you could go into your list of trades and you'll see the current trade still open. I know it's confusing because it says enter short pending. You're like, what? But the trade wasn't stepped out. What's going? You know what? It is, and I want you to make sure that you're able to understand when you see that happening and there's an open trade, it's because the trailing stop just kicked in at 1.1% on the short side. Always go into your list of trades, confirm what's going on over there. And then on the long side, you see that, well done, Don. Well done so far. And Solana here is leading the way, still holding an open trade 6.5%. Bitcoin off 1.6. This is buy side boost once a day. Once a day. Let me jump back over here. And if we're able to take CTM precision and we're able to go ahead and adopt it, as I was talking about with doing a low cap performers, finding a universal setting, and we take that whole strategy, that whole methodology, and we do that over here in what we believe are going to be top performers. Now, here's the thing. If I was able to, out of this, and I'm going to go to year to date, and I'm looking at year to date, and then I have to show you something alarming. Something alarming in 1 second. So that's where we're going to go to next. But I want you to see, and I want you to know that if you go ahead and you look at performance year to date, we say, okay, average 20, 20, 24, 25, 24.5%. But what happens if we knew when to be in the market went out? What happens if we have our list of what we expect could be top 20 outperformers? And then we go ahead and instead of finding a universal setting, we don't need to find a universal. We could find dialed in for each asset. And then we focus in on there. That 24.5% is going to look wildly different. And again, we were able to go, okay, well, this is better. This was 50%. Yeah, that's good. But again, a couple of these wouldn't even traded. If you look at year-to-date performance, you say, 3% probably would have been out of the market most of the time, ASTS, as it's down on the year. Well, or break even on the year, we would have been likely out of the market, in and out. And then we go ahead and we say things like, well, man, this is it early? Is it late? That's the problem with this one. I wish I was holding, and I'm not. I wish it was in my portfolio, and it's not. And so what I think, that's where my headspace is. I got to go ahead and I got to say, we got to build off of what we have. Let's go ahead and see if I go ahead and able to model for these top 20 dialed in performances. Let's check that. Instead of VC hold, let's, we expect that 1% is going to outperform and we're going to have some losers and hopefully an average win. No, we could do better. Let's see if it's better. So stay tuned. Maybe next week we'll check in, and by then I'll be able to have these modeled, and then we could go ahead and see if that's something we could incorporate going forward. I think that might be better than looking at low cap outperformers. Maybe. And these are things that outperformed over the past 3 years wildly, coming back to the 2023. And you can see that, well, some of these had, 1,000% returns. Maybe we got to do both. We got a lot to do. That's why we're here, to put the work in. One other thing that I added to the list was BLOX. And this is my, instead of, during this drawdown on Bitcoin, I'm a big bull long term. I wanted to accumulate, but I said, you know what? I'm going to take a position in BLOX. And I went ahead and I was presenting to CTM on that a couple of times. I said, hey, do your own research. I want you to know what I'm doing. It's not often that I make a pick like that. What was the other one? I forget. We were talking about it yesterday. And oh, I forget. Anyway, so in 2026, as we were in drawdown over here, I was like pointing out that, you know what, if you look at what happened since the high, this is looking at IBIT versus BLOX, and you could see it's outperforming since this is year to date. Sorry, here's from the high of October the 9th when Bitcoin peaked. And you could see overall, you're looking at BLOX down 23% compared to the 35% on IBIT. If you look at year to date from January 1st, you can see it's outperforming IBIT by 20%. Now, if you believe that Bitcoin is going to do Bitcoin things, and whether or not ultimately over the next amount of time, whatever you deem it to be, you envision Bitcoin back at 160, 250, 500,000, eventually a million, right? Now, I would expect that you would see Bitcoin outperform as BLOX is using option strategy and captures, I would say, about 80% of the move. But actually, we see it outperforming. And if you envision a world where Bitcoin is at one of those markers, being able to capture, the 34% yearly yield, that's attractive to me. It's why I did it. I watched to see if at any point in time things are breaking down in the fund. Haven't seen that yet. I wish I had the portfolio over here. It plays a role in the portfolio that I've put together for the feeders along with CTM stocks. But I just thought we'd bring it up as we were talking about today, some of the stock picks for 2026, and it belongs on the list. Just so it's a reoccurring mention over here. So that's where I'm at today. I'm dialed in. I'm saying, all right, this was a good time to review what we were looking at first week of the year. No, the danger. Let me bring up the danger. Let's go ahead and this is going to actually, here we go. I'm going to go, when did the market put in its low? The end of March. So I want to look at these just on the chart with you from the beginning of the year, from January 2026 into the end of March. Because if you were just, okay, so we know that Nibis is outperforming, but it's probably the only one. You could see that Iron in a loss. You could see that Rocket Labs break even. ASTS at the time, at a loss. EOS at a big loss. That's a big loss at that time over here. The point of this, and let me finish, 60%. That's getting. NVIDIA was at a loss. ONDS at a loss. Almost all of them were at a loss. I'd say the whole portfolio was at a loss and guess what? Yeah, that was a pullback that scared a lot of people. But if that would have been the onset of a bear market, everything on this list basically and overall would have got cooked. And that's why I want to introduce dialed. Yes, I think it's really important to say that we put together a really good list. Maybe we could even do better now. A lot changes in 4 months, 5 months. And maybe that list needs updating. But finding that list and then dialing in and navigating around that's something that I think will complement our portfolio of stocks that we trade very nicely. So that's what I'm in. That's another great question. So the question is it a buy today? And we're going to look at it from, is BLOX today, Nicholas, crypto, income, ETF, my personal opinion, well managed. A lot of people have reservations about high income ETFs, high income dividend ETFs. But look, as it is, there has not been NAV erosion here. A lot of people are probably MSTY had major NAV erosion, right? And a lot of people are shell shocked. We look at things like CHPY and it hasn't had NAV erosion. We look at BLOX, it hasn't had NAV erosion. You could see it recover. If you look at it compared to Bitcoin, it's outperforming. That could change. It's not like, you know, something that you could just close your eyes, and you have to watch and watch out for warning signs. If you go to the CTM portfolio, I put at the very bottom of that things to be watching and monitoring, and it includes specifically here for blocks things that I would be monitoring, where I would say, okay, I'm getting rid of it. Now, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing green lights. And you know, is it going to be largely dependent on what happens with the market and with Bitcoin? Absolutely. And you could see that as Bitcoin has been off since its high, you could see Bitcoin coming into its high, and boom, Bitcoin peaks. This fund peaks over here. And yes, it's off significantly less, 20% less than IBIT since the high if you're reinvesting dividends, but it's still off. And as Bitcoin goes, as the markets go, likely so will this. Now, the markets have been doing some pretty funky things that it's never been done before. Now, I will say 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months and 12 months from now, all signs point towards higher. But I can't tell you whether or not this is a good time to step your toes in. I don't have any type of we don't have a strategy that knows on something like this when to be in and when to be out of the markets. Now, would I think that Bitcoin bull runs might be a way to navigate? Look, let's go ahead and jump in. And the point of Bitcoin bull runs is to know when to be in the market, when out, and try to hold for long period of times. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump over to the Bitcoin bull markets. I'm going to pull it up, and you can see that it was out for the whole downward bearish momentum. Took us the win percentage on this is so low, by the way. It is our lowest out of all our strategies, under 20%. The risk to reward is extremely great, but the win percentage is very low. So let's say something for like BLOX, you were like, okay, I'm exiting on October the 15th, and I entered, and I'm entering now. This is May the 3rd. Let's go ahead and take a look at that together. So October the 25th, you exit the market, and you've been able to, stay out for a big drawdown in size, roughly, 32%. Your dividend income does not make up for that. So it would have been better being on the sidelines, and you're just in since the 3rd now. Is that a good way to go about it? Maybe, potentially. I think so. It seems like that might be a good idea. You could use Bitcoin bull runs if you're unsure. Bitcoin bull runs is in the market right now. It could be out tomorrow. Yes. So, Cabby, I love that. And I would love to be a part of that. And first of all, guys, there's so many things cooking right now, and you have no idea. And I'm taking on a lot, and I'm doing a lot, and there's things going on behind the scenes that you're not aware of, and I can't communicate right now. I have to keep it close to my vest, and that's also taken up a lot of time. But the things that I presented today, that's high priority. We got another thing that we're working on here is B South putting together strategy over here, the Bulls high alpha strategy. He making the case that it's superior to FNGU, and put together a dynamic strategy for it. And the one thing that he's asking is for everything that makes up, I forget how many assets, Intel, Amazon, Alphabet. There might be like, I'm going to guess, there could be 9. There could be 19. I don't know how many make up the ETN, but he's asking, listen, I think a pure play, no filters, if we had a strategy for each of those, long-term, full history, that could benefit this. So that's at the top of my list too. That's at the top of my list. At the top of my list is taking a look at today at our 2026 top picks and having them modeled so we can see, is that the direction we want to go? I think that could be extraordinarily fruitful. Getting ready to get V4 out, right? We have all of those already modeled, extraordinarily fruitful. I want to circle back though, and maybe this is the right time, right? Because right now it looks like a good time to be attacking. Our MSTR strategy is super solid. That helps a lot. I would like to get in there with you, Cabby. I really do. And I want to reorg the whole Discord. And that deserves a place in the Discord. So everything's going to happen on time. Everyone, have a beautiful day. On your way out, if you're new, welcome. Subscribe to the channel. Join us. Sounds like an Amber Alert. What a way to end the session. What a way to start it. Old school CTM. Everyone, lots of love. God bless you. I'll see you all back here tomorrow.